Oke, kita live di YouTube juga, Dokter. Baik, Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Salam sehat dan salam sejahtera bagi kita semua. Insya Allah selalu dalam lindungan Allah, diberi kesehatan, diberi keselamatan, dan dimudahkan segala urusan. Alhamdulillah, hari ini adalah sesi public lecture kita, atau kita sebut dengan Kapita Selekta, ya, yang akan kita adakan dan menghadirkan pemateri dari luar negara, ya, dari negeri jiran kita. Nah, insya Allah pertama-tama saya ucapkan banyak terima kasih kepada Dekanat Fakultas Ekonomi dan Bisnis Universitas Pancasila dan beserta jajaran dosen yang menyempatkan hadir untuk mengikuti Kapita Selekta, serta adik-adik mahasiswa yang kami banggakan. Semoga acara ini bisa memberikan manfaat, memberikan ilmu dan perspektif yang lebih luas kepada kita semua untuk memahami ilmu khususnya dalam bidang ekonomi dan bisnis. Pertama-tama saya mengundang untuk Pak Mulyadi sebagai wakil dekan untuk memberikan sambutan sekaligus membuka acara Kapita Selekta kita. Selamat, silakan.
Baik, Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam.
Yang saya hormati Ibu Associate Profesor Dr. Asma Abdurrahman selaku Head of Syariah and Economic Department University Malaya, Malaysia. Juga yang saya hormati rekan saya Bapak Gunawan Baharudin SE MSc PhD selaku dosen tetap Fakultas Ekonomi dan Bisnis Universitas Pancasila yang saat ini selaku moderator. Yang saya hormati tentunya para Kaprodi, Sekprodi, Satuan Jaminan Mutu, Gugus Jaminan Mutu, para dosen, dan mahasiswa yang ikut serta dalam kuliah Kapita Selekta pada hari ini yang bertemakan adalah Halal Financing for Halal Industry. Nah, tentunya pertama-tama marilah kita panjatkan puji dan syukur kehadirat Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala, Tuhan yang Maha Esa, bahwa pada hari ini kita diberi nikmat panjang umur, nikmat sehat, sehingga kita dapat hadir dalam kuliah Kapita Selekta dengan pembicara tentunya dari negara tetangga kita, Malaysia. Mungkin di masa pandemi ini ada hikmah tadi yang kita sampaikan, bahwa bisa bertemu ya dengan Ibu Dr. Asma Abdurrahman, yang kira-kira kalau menurut ukuran nan jauh di sana gitu. Nah, tentunya yang pertama juga saya sampaikan salam dari dekan kami, Ibu Dr. Insinyur Iha Haryani Hatta, SEMM, sehubungan dengan beliau menghadiri undangan seminar nasional dan bisnis syariah. Dengan temanya kira-kira hampir sama juga gitu loh. Temanya akselerasi halal value chain untuk kemajuan bisnis syariah di Indonesia yang diselenggarakan di Universitas Muhammadiyah Palembang. Ya, pada hari ini sampai dengan 6 November ya, Sabtu tahun 2021. Tentunya Ibu Asma kami sampaikan bahwa kuliah Kapita Selekta ini dilaksanakan setiap minggu pada hari Kamis secara terjadwal pada jam 13.30 waktu Indonesia bagian Barat. Nah, dalam setiap semester kuliah Kapita Selekta ini sedikitnya kami lakukan adalah 10 kali paling tidak ya. Dan yang mengikuti kuliah Kapita Selekta ini adalah para mahasiswa tingkat akhir yang memang sedang menyusun skripsi. Nah, tentunya dengan materi yang disampaikan, temanya adalah Halal Financing for Halal Industry. Ini saya rasa memang materi yang sangat menarik karena memang yang sedang populer, yang sedang in juga di kami gitu tentang halal ya, halal financing. Juga di kami banyak juga diselenggarakan tentang bisnis ekonomi syariah. Nah, saya rasa mewakili pimpinan tentunya mengucapkan terima kasih yang sebesar-besarnya atas kesediaan Ibu Asma Abdurrahman untuk berbagi ilmu kepada kami, kepada mahasiswa kami, kepada dosen, kepada kami semua. Saya rasa mudah-mudahan ya ini bermanfaat bagi kami semuanya. Juga terutama kepada mahasiswa-mahasiswa kami yang ada di Fakultas Ekonomi dan Bisnis Universitas Pancasila. Saya rasa untuk mempersingkat waktu itu yang bisa saya sampaikan, selain tentunya ucapan terima kasih, maka pada kesempatan ini dengan membaca Bismillahirrahmanirrahim, maka kuliah Kapita Selekta dengan tema financing for halal industry dengan resmi kami nyatakan dibuka. Terima kasih. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Terima kasih Bapak Wadek. Terima kasih juga sudah mewakili Ibu Dekan yang sedang melakukan perjalanan dinas. Baik, sebelum kita memulai sesi kita hari ini yang berjudul Halal Industry and its Financing, saya akan sedikit menjelaskan siapa keynote speaker kita, guest speaker kita hari ini. Jadi dalam nama lengkap beliau adalah Associate Professor Dr. Asma Abdurrahman. Ya, beliau adalah salah satu expert di University of Malaya. Saat ini beliau menjabat sebagai Kepala Departemen Syariah and Economics di Academy of Islamic Studies. Kalau kita melihat Google Scholar beliau, Masya Allah ya, indeksnya sudah sangat tinggi dengan citasi yang banyak. Saya diinfokan juga beliau saat ini aktif menjadi dosen tamu dan pembimbing mahasiswa S3 di UGM, betul dokter, Universitas Gajah Mada, di UII Jogja, di Airlangga, ya, dan banyak lagi. Sepertinya tempat dokter ini beraktivitas di universitas-universitas Indonesia. Insya Allah mudah-mudahan kedepannya kita akan membangun jembatan yang lebih kuat antara Universitas Pancasila dan University Malaya. Baik, without further ado, Dokter, I was informed that Dr. Asma will deliver her presentation in English because she is a bit awkward with mixing with Malaya and Indonesian language. So she preferred to deliver her presentation in English. Right. The time and the screen is yours, Doctor. Please.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi taala wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi.
Mutur nuwun ya Pak Mulyadi. Betul ya saya bicara?
Matur nuwun, Dokter.
Matur nuwun.
Matur nuwun.
Okey, terima kasih banyak Bapak Dr. Mulyadi, Wakil Dekan 2 Fakulti Ekonomi Bisnes Universitas Pancasila. Yang dihormati Bapak Dr. Gunawan, dosen-dosen Universitas Pancasila, seterusnya para mahasiswa Universitas Pancasila. Jadi mohon maaf kerana sebagaimana di inform Pak Dr. Gunawan, saya telah menyediakan PowerPoint-nya di dalam bahasa Inggeris kerana saya bimbang kalau saya bicara bahasa Indonesia itu mungkin agak kurang lancar kerana sudah belajar tapi masih lagi kok belajarnya sedikit-sedikit ya Pak. Jadi terima kasih di atas jemputannya. Jadi saya mulakan dengan berkongsikan PowerPoint saya. Okay, Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. So it's my great pleasure to share this topic with all students of Universitas Pancasila, which is entitled Halal Financing for Halal Industry in Malaysia. So I take Malaysia as a case study, even though it actually also apply in Indonesia and other Muslim countries when we talk about halal financing for halal industry. So I would like to start my lecture by sharing a little bit about Malaysian economy. Okay, so in Malaysia, the supply of goods and consumer needs are produced by Malaysians, which when I say Malaysian, it consists of Muslims and non-Muslims. So when the food or the consumer needs are produced by non-Muslim producers, there was a concern, okay, on does the food or the product is halal when it being produced by non-Muslims or even by multinational company. So therefore, with that concern, halal become one of the sector that develop, okay, and become important and be industry which is then contribute to the economic growth in Malaysia. So with the development of the halal industry in Malaysia, then there was also a concern that for the halal producers, are they taking financing when they producing halal product? Because when we talk about halal, it's not only limited to halal food or halal product, but also about the financing for the halal product. Okay, so in Malaysia, for example, in terms of the contribution of services, which is consists of finance and insurance, or Islamic finance and Islamic insurance, okay, which is contributing 57% of the total of the Malaysian growth. Okay, so but here the report is consists of the overall conventional and also Islamic. Okay, but for this contribution by the services of finance and insurance, they also contributed by Islamic finance and Islamic insurance. So being Malaysia being one of the country which acknowledge, okay, dual economy, which is Islamic and also conventional, then it is a concern and also awareness among Muslims in Malaysia to grow the asset of the Islamic banking and Islamic insurance, also other part of the Islamic financial institution, for example suku, unit trust, shares and other Islamic sectors. And then for manufacturing, which is also contributing to the growth of the economy, which is consists of food processing, for example. So for food processing, this also contributed by halal food. Okay, so this is the scenario or the facts of the growth in the Malaysian economy. So I believe in Indonesia, this sector also contributing to the growth of the Indonesian economy. Okay, but my apologies because I do not go through the report of the Indonesian economy, but I think you know better than me. So in this talk, I will share only on the Malaysian economy. So then the question is, why halal matters to Muslim and why halal financing for halal producers? Okay, so when we talk about this, okay, this question, so it of course we come to the basic foundation of we as a Muslim, okay, to understand, okay, why we have to take this important, okay, for the halal products and also for halal financing. Okay, so thus when we take into importance or emphasize on the halal and also for the halal financing, okay, so this halal benefit to us, okay, and why we have to bother about the halal consumption, okay, and then why can't we eat, we drink, consume whatever we desire, okay, or why we have we have no rights or no freedom when we have to only consume halal product, consume halal food, okay, halal drink, okay, and thus we are not given the freedom when we only have to take halal financing, okay, in producing halal product. Okay, so this question then relate to the basic philosophical or the basic foundation of we as a Muslim, that we have to understand when we are the Muslim, I mean when we declare that we are Muslim, okay, so we have to understand that why we are here, okay, and this basic question then will enable us to understand, okay, why we have to take halal product as one of the important aspect in our daily consumption, why we have to take halal financing as one of the important aspect in our managing in our finance, okay. So as we always being told, okay, from the beginning as a Muslim, okay, this is what we understand, okay, why we are here, okay, which is Allah has communicated with us, وَمَا خَلَقْتُ الْجِنَّ وَالْإِنسَ إِلَّا لِيَعْبُدُونَ. Okay, so we are here because we are created, okay, to obey Allah, to worship Allah, and this obedience, okay, have to be translated into all of our daily life. Not only we perform solat, not only we perform fast, not only we go and perform hajj, but all our daily life have to be reflected in all our action, which is to worship Allah the Creator, okay. And so when we look into this aspect, into the details of the obedience, okay, the worship, okay, the obedience to the command of Allah is compulsory to us to show that we are Muslim, okay. And in this context, okay, we also know that as a creation, okay, in this world, we have the obligation, okay, as a Khalifah of Allah, okay, in this world. So as a Khalifah of Allah, we are expected to live in this world according, okay, to what is expected as a Khalifah, which is to preserve this world, okay. And among things, okay, that we are obliged, okay, to preserve this world, for example, is to take care all the natural resources, to live peaceful with each other, for example. And one thing, for example, of to live peaceful is by living a decent life, okay. So for example, by avoiding taking liquor, okay, which is, we know that many research has been done. For example, if people taking liquor, okay, then what will happen, okay, there are many research that has been done showing that when people are taking liquor, okay, there are possible a quarrel happen, death happen because of the unconscious mind when they take alcohol, for example, okay. And then with this story also, we know that our existence in this world bring this message by Allah, okay, which is we are the Khalifah of Allah, okay. And then and even though we know that in this story, okay, what we learn, okay, from this story also about Adam, okay, which is the first human being that been created, okay, has been given the ability, okay, to think, to absorb, okay, to understand, okay, with the intellect, with the mind, with the intellect that have been given to them. So for us, we are the being that been given the intellect, the mind. So with the intellect and the mind that are given to us, then make us then understand how in this current context, okay, when there are halal product which need to be financed with the financing which is meet the Islamic teaching, with the various product in the market, okay, then we have the ability, okay, to design the product which meet the requirement, which is no element riba, waro and maisir, okay, which is prohibited. Okay, so in this ayah, for example, we know that, okay, we learn that Adam, okay, had been given that ability. So that's why, for example, Adam know the name. Okay, so this is to show that the ability to think. Okay, and then this is, I mean, the story, okay, between the conversation, okay, between the angel and Allah, which query about Adam, who will be created and then will be put on this earth as Khalifa. Okay, so this is, I mean, about this story, okay, that I mentioned. Okay, we are here. Okay, and then we know that in this story also, okay, there is another being, okay, which is Iblis, okay, which is, we know that he does not obey the Allah command. Okay, so we as the human being, if we disobey Allah's command, if we disobey Allah's command that we have to eat food which is do not contain the element, the prohibited element, if we use the financing which is contain the prohibited element, we may also have this kind of behavior, istakbaro, okay, like what Iblis do, okay, disobey Allah's command. So for us, okay, what we learn from this story, it is not only we learn as a lesson during our childhood, but when we become an adult, this story should be pondered upon on how obedient we are as a Muslim in our daily life, in obey Allah's command in terms of eating, financing, and other economic activities. Okay, so we are here in this world, okay, as what being mentioned in the Quran. This is the purpose why we are here. Okay, when Allah create Adam, not to put Adam in the Jannah, but to be put here in this world, and we will be allowed to do whatever is expected to us as a being in this world, explore, okay, our potential, our possibility as a human being, be innovative, okay, be creative. Okay, so that's why, for example, nowadays we see there are lots of food. For example, there are food that being created, that being innovated, that we never found before, okay, during our grandfathers, for example. And I still remember once, okay, I have one visitor come to my house, and then I cook pizza back then. Okay, so my visitor said, oh, I never eat pizza before, because back then during our grandfather's days, no pizza, and now young generations, okay, eating pizza or other sophisticated food is something that is familiar to them. Okay, so with this innovation, then we need to ponder upon, does what we are eating is allowed according to what is commanded by Allah. Okay, so this is about all this story. Okay, so I think I will go further on the next slide. Okay, so the question is, okay, does halal concept apply only on food? So no, because when we talk about halal, it's not only on food, but it goes beyond food. Okay, and even when we talk about halal on food, it has to be ensured that the halal food consists of the whole chain of food production. Okay, this is just a simple example in our daily food, for example. So this is in Malaysia we call nasi ayam, okay, but maybe in Indonesia, for example, you have nasi ayam penyet, for example. Okay, so starting from all the ingredient, it should to be ensured that everything is halal. Okay, the chicken has to be ensured that being slaughtered properly according to the Islamic way of slaughtering chicken. And if we are using another ingredient, for example, we are using ketchup, okay, we are using sauce, okay, tomato sauce and everything, we have to ensure that everything is halal. And for example, if we are eating pizza, for example, we have to ensure that everything is halal. The cheese is halal, and all the ingredient is halal. So that's why it's very important that all the halal chain is certified halal, so that we can eat with peaceful of mind that what come to our mouth is everything is halal. Okay. It also goes to another daily product. Okay, our toothpaste, our shampoo, our cosmetic, our facial cleanser, everything, okay, should be halal. Okay, so this is the awareness that we have to embrace. Okay, not only for adult, but also has to be educated to the youngsters. Okay, so that's why when they go and buy their daily needs, they buy their food, okay, they have the consciousness, they have the awareness. Okay, they only take the halal product. And it also goes to the way that we are dressed. Okay, so halal fashion or modest fashion now becoming one of the sector which is also growing and contributing to the halal sector. Okay, so when we talk halal industry, it consists of services and product with halal certification or product which is without halal certification. So certain product, they do not have halal logo. Okay, when we said halal certification, meaning this product has halal logo. But there are also product, we know we have to take halal product, halal services, but there's no halal logo. Okay, so for example, when we talk about halal tourism, okay, of course there's no logo to certify this is halal travel, halal tourism. But we understand from the change of halal tourism. Okay, so for example, if the travel company bring the customers, okay, to certain places, for example, okay, so for example, in the itinerary of the halal of the tourism, for example, there is one place that they will go, for example, go to the disco, for example. So this cannot be considered as halal tourism. Okay, but there's no halal logo to certify this halal agency, for example. But we know that for halal tourism, which is supported by halal industry, which is, for example, halal food and also another halal meat. Okay, so then which then contributed to the halal tourism. And even, for example, for halal fashion, as far as I know, there's no halal logo being given to any fashion producer. But we know from the way that the dress or the attire being produced, we know that either this fashion meet the Islamic fashion or not. Okay, so then this also being considered as halal fashion industry, even it does not have halal logo certification. Okay, so but when we look into the statistic, most of the country will then put the or include, okay, or measure the halal industry. They tend, okay, to take the industry with the halal logo or even with the certification of the halal for the industry. For example, Islamic finance. Okay, there's no logo for Islamic finance, halal logo for Islamic finance, but usually being certified as Islamic finance. Okay, so is there a demand for halal product? Okay, does producer want to produce halal product, and does the producer want to get the halal financing? So this is the question, okay, that for the producer, then when they want to produce, okay, of course as the producer they have to look into the demand. If they have to go and get halal logo, halal certification, as the producer, of course from their perspective, the question is, does there is a demand if they take an effort to get halal certification, okay? And then why they want to take halal certification, okay? So as we aware that internationally, even for example in Korea, in Japan, for example, in Australia, for example, they have done a very proactive step, okay, in terms of producing halal product. For example, in Korea, even though the Muslim is minority, but they have taken an effort to ensure that when they want to go into the Muslim market, they get halal certification. Same goes to Japan, okay? If they want to go into the Muslim market, they know they cannot enter into this market without halal certification, even though there are minority Muslim in this country. And same in Australia, for example, okay, they are among the biggest meat production, okay, to international market, and they take an effort to develop the halal industry. So if this non-majority Muslim countries population take this initiative to expand the halal market, why we in Malaysia, in Indonesia see this potential and do nothing, okay, to enter into this market, okay, to capture the potential of the halal market globally, okay? So as I mentioned earlier, do Muslim consumers and Muslim producers only involved in halal market? No, because the research that has been done showing that even in non-Muslim countries, okay, non-Muslim people, they also are keen to take halal product. Okay, so for example, halal cosmetic is having high demand, for example, in India, for example, in China. Why? Because halal cosmetic goes beyond, okay, slaughtering, goes beyond only just not having liquor, but halal certification also put much important emphasis on the tayyiban element, which is halal product must not have the ingredient which will harm the people, harm the skin. Okay, so that's why it become increasingly high demand for halal cosmetic, for example. And for non-Muslim producers, they see this is as potential, okay, to go beyond the Muslim market but also non-Muslim market. So this is an example of, for example, Clara International, one of the cosmetic producers in Malaysia, which is getting halal certification for their product. Okay, and if we look into the population or the Muslim population, we can see that the Muslim population is expected to increase. Okay, and with logic assumption that if Muslim becoming more aware on the importance of taking halal product, then the demand for halal product is becoming bigger. Okay, so this is the potential, and this is the statistic, okay, which is to show that the Muslim population, okay, which is becoming bigger, and it reflect also, okay, the importance of the halal product. Okay, so we know that in general the concept of halal meaning that the product does not contain prohibited an element in that product, and this is, okay, based on the Quranic verses. Okay, everything we will refer to the Quranic verses or the hadith, because this is the source of law for us as a Muslim. Okay, so for example in the Quran in Surah Al-Baqarah, okay, ya ayyuhallazina amanu kulu min thayyibati ma razaqnakum, okay, washkuru bihi in kuntum iyyahu ta'budun. So we know that one of the command from Allah is that we eat what is good, okay, thayyibat, okay. So what is good meaning there's no harmful element in the food, okay. So whatever may harm us, okay, will not accepted in Islam, okay. And there are also clear prohibition in the Quran. For example, what is prohibited? Okay, innama hurrima alaikumul maitata waddam. So this is also, okay, the prohibited element, which is we cannot eat that animal, or in Malay we said bangkai, okay, or we cannot eat food which is containing dam, blood or darah, okay, pork of course, okay, and also animal that being slaughtered without reciting Allah's name. Okay, so for example, when we eat pizza, for example, one of the ingredient is cheese. So even though we see that cheese is made from dairy product, which is from milk, for example, but there are one ingredient in making cheese which is known as rennet. So and rennet mostly from animal part. So if this rennet taken from the animal which are not being slaughtered by reciting Allah's name, then in that cheese there are prohibited element in that cheese, for example. So that's why when we want to eat pizza, even though vegetable pizza, for example, but there are cheese, we have to ensure that cheese is halal. So this is how when we want to get halal certification, the process has to be done, okay, to ensure that everything is halal, okay. And also there are another verses in the Quran which is telling us, okay, guide us what are prohibited from us to eat. Okay, so for example, we know that this is only the prohibited element, which is alcohol, blood, animal which are not slaughtered by reciting Allah's name, that animal, okay, and pork, okay. And even for example blood, we would say we don't eat blood, but there are certain food in certain countries which are produced and the main ingredient is blood, okay. So maybe if I say maybe I eating sausage, for example, and inside the sausage maybe we are common eating sausage, and inside the sausage which is the most ingredient being used is chicken, okay, but there are sausage ingredient being used is blood, okay. So that's why this is the prohibited element, okay. And then so that's only the prohibited food that we cannot eat, we cannot use in the production of our daily product, okay. And other than that, everything is halal, okay. So we can eat anything, okay, except what is prohibited only, okay. So how halal then can contribute to the economy, because when halal becoming one of the need, become one of the important for the Muslim, okay, it becoming a very significant industry in the economy. And why it is important to get halal certification? So like I mentioned earlier, halal can be considered by having halal certification or without halal certification. But by getting halal certification is important because of, we know that in the production of food there are complexity of food, the production of daily care and also healthcare production. in terms of how it being produced, being manufactured, because all of this food, okay, have a longevity of life. Okay, so for example, the food will expire after 2 years, after 3 years. So what are ingredients that being used in that food so that it can long lasting for 2 years or 3 years? So it have to be ensure that this ingredient, okay, does not having the ingredient that is prohibited. So that's why to do the assessment, we need somebody to do the assessment, somebody who has the professional qualification to assess that. Okay, not only by looking into this food and say, okay, it's halal. Okay, it need this assessment, and sometimes it need to be tested in the laboratory, in the lab. Okay, it need to be tested because some ingredient maybe when it being used, it does not contain like the original part. For example, the food does not contain like piece of pork meat, but other ingredient that have been reproduced by using pork as one of the ingredient. Okay, and then for cosmetic, pharmaceutical product, okay, it's very complex in terms of production nowadays, the technology that being used. Okay, so that's why it is important, okay, to ensure that it is halal. And from economic point of view, why halal certification is important? Okay, first, because when we have halal certification, the producers take an effort to have halal certification, consumer will trust, consumer will have confidence. For example, in the society which have higher awareness, higher knowledge about halal food, if they go to the supermarket, for example, if on the shelf there are food with halal certification and food without halal certification, which one Muslim consumers will choose? Of course, for the Muslim society with higher awareness or with the awareness, they will choose food or daily product with halal logo. So then it increase, okay, the demand among the Muslim, and it will give competitive advantage, okay, because it not only when people get trust, okay, but competitive advantage because it will be choose, people become loyal, there will be more demand, okay, and so that's why it can access a bigger market, okay, with minimal investment. Minimal investment meaning process of getting halal certification, because when the producers want to get halal certification, they need to invest, need to do the process, to submit the application, okay, so they have to invest time, expertise, okay, who understand, because when the company or when the food producer want to get the halal certification, they have to renew, okay, the halal certification, for example. So to maintain this, they have to have the halal personnel at their company, for example, okay, to ensure that everything is always following the halal procedure, okay. And at the international level, it can enhance marketability of the product. Not only they can go and export the product into the OIC countries, but also to other non-OIC countries, okay, which is have certain or which still have consumers, okay. So for example, I share after this one of the company whereby they can export their product into even non-Muslim countries, okay. And of course, from the macroeconomic perspective, okay, the halal sector can contribute to the growth of the economy in the country, okay. So as we know that the global Islamic economy in terms of the halal industry is expanding and growing. Okay. And for Malaysian society, consumers and producers, like I mentioned, are Muslim and non-Muslim. And for the non-Muslim producers, getting halal certification, then they can capture the Muslim market, the Muslim consumers. Okay. So in terms of the legal framework in Malaysia, there are requirement, okay, which is under the law, which is the Trade Description Act, which is if the producer want to put halal logo in their packaging, they have to ensure that the halal certification is getting certified from the halal body, not just based on their own halal certified. Okay, is not being accepted. So if they put halal but there's no halal body which is recognized by the government give halal certification, then they breach the law. Okay, so these are among the standard that have to be followed for the halal producers in Malaysia. So I think in Indonesia also have this type of legal framework to ensure that all halal producers are following the procedure, okay, when they claim that they are producing halal product. Okay, so in Malaysia, the halal journey is not new because it started in 1974. Because in Malaysia, like I mentioned, we have Malays, Muslim, we also have Indian and Chinese. And back then, okay, when Muslim, okay, they also go to the Chinese restaurant, they also go to the Indian restaurant, they use the product that being produced by Chinese and Indian, okay, then it becoming concern, okay, by the Muslim, either the restaurant or the product has halal, okay, or halal when it being produced. Okay, so in Malaysia, JAKIM is the certification body now being recognized by the Malaysian government, and when they get halal certification, it's only for 2 years and they have to renew. So just imagine if non-Muslim apply for halal certification and it will expire after 2 years, they will apply for another 2 years. So for the next application, when the assessment been done, if they breach the halal procedure, then for the next application, they may not be given the halal certification, or it can be revoked if the owner is found to contravene the halal certification procedure. So from the business point of view, if you invest your product to get halal certification, of course you want your product being known as halal product in the market. You want to expand your business, you want to get as much as customers, you have to maintain these halal procedures. Okay, and if you breach the halal procedures, and if it be known by the customers, your image, your reputation as halal producers will tarnish. Okay, and consumers will not trust your product anymore. So that's why for the producer, when they get halal certification, it will become something that should be a business which should be long-lasting procedure or long-lasting strategy for the business. Okay, so in terms of halal growth in Malaysia, we can see that it's growing and it's contributing to the export, okay, for halal export in Malaysia. And Malaysian has done many initiatives, okay, to encourage for small business enterprise, small business owner to go and ask or to get halal certification. Okay, because this is the statistic of the company that is apply for the halal certification. So we can see that the increasing number of the company, either the small industry, small and medium industry, or small and medium business owners, and also for the multinational company. Okay, is increasing to apply for the halal certification. And what are factors that contributed to the growth of halal industry in Malaysia? So there are few factors beside government support. Okay, human capital. Okay, so I will touch on this. So human capital is very important in developing halal industry in Malaysia or in Indonesia. Having person or human capital who understand the halal concept, being trained on what is halal, being trained on how halal should be maintained in the company is very important, so that when the company get halal certification, when the company want to get halal certification, they know the process. Okay, and it will be easier. And also it also become important for the universities, okay, to offer the halal syllabus, okay, or to offer the halal certificate, okay, for the student, okay, so that the student have this knowledge. Okay, but to become professional, they have to go and take another halal certification cert, which is, for example, in Malaysia being offered by JAKIM, okay, so that they can understand all the process. And not only that, under the government support and also the human capital, but also the infrastructure. So for example, there are lab which can do the analysis, okay, either the product contain non halal element or not, for example. Okay, so this is among the factors that are contributing to the development of halal in Malaysia. Okay, so for halal certification in Malaysia, so there are requirement, okay, under the Malaysia Halal Standard MS 1500, okay, which is required for personnel which is having all the competent, okay, to be appointed, okay, at the multinational corporation, okay, and also it also needed, okay, to have halal executive, okay, at the company which has or apply for halal certification. So it shows that halal business should be seen as a professional industry. Okay, it's not been done by only looking like a very simple way and say that, oh, this is halal, this is not halal. Okay, and for halal certification process, of course, all the product cannot contain all the prohibited element that I mentioned earlier. So there are few segment of the halal certification in Malaysia. So for food, for the beverages, and also for the food premise, for the restaurant, for the hotel, for example. I mean, for the kitchen at the hotel. So we don't have like halal certification for the whole hotel, but halal certification for the kitchen at the hotel. Okay, and for the consumer good, cosmetic, slaughterhouse, so we also have I think in Indonesia also the slaughterhouse which is certified as halal slaughterhouse. So for example, if the company, okay, non-Muslim company producing supply of chicken, okay, so this company should have the certified slaughter, okay, to ensure that all the chicken being slaughtered properly. So for example, KFC. So we have KFC, Indonesia also have KFC. We eat chicken, okay, when we go to KFC. So it has to be ensured that all chicken that being supplied to KFC has been slaughtered according to the Islamic teaching of slaughtering, and then pharmaceutical and also logistic. So the company that is supply the logistic services for the product to be transferred, for example, from the factory to the logistic or to the wholesale place, to the retail supermarket, all should be comply with the halal process. Okay, so for example, there's no compromise. For example, in one lorry, there are chicken that being slaughtered and there are chicken which not being slaughtered. Okay, the mixture. Okay, so just the logistic should separate. Okay, on the slaughtered chicken and non-slaughtered chicken, for example. And I think one of the aspect that I think consumer also have to be very careful. For example, nowadays consumer are having order food online. So for example, I'm not sure in Indonesia, do you have like Grab food or Panda food in Indonesia? I'm not sure. I mean, do you have Grab food and Panda food, or what do you have when you want to order food online? Because during this
GoFood,
what
GoFood
food?
or
GoFood?
GoFood or
Okay.
Grab food, yes, something
Yes,
like
yes. Okay, so for example, when we order Grab food or GoFood, do we aware or do we conscious that when we get the food that being delivered by the Grab food deliver driver, for example, because I did a random study. So I asked few students, okay, when they order Grab food, for example, because my student also become Grab food driver. I mean, during their semester break, okay. So for example, if the order come from the restaurant which is supply or which is the menu is contain pork, so they take the food, then they deliver to the non-Muslim consumer. After that, they get the order from the Muslim restaurant to go to the Muslim customers. So how do they handle the food in their Grab box? So based on, I mean, it's not a very systematic study, just a random survey, okay. So they say that, okay, we do not know, we just take and then we deliver, and also as the customer, we also cannot differentiate either the Grab food driver or the Panda food driver or Go food driver. They segregate when they bring this food to our own house. And for example, I also order online, because during MCO, okay, we order food online. So, and I know that from the supplier that I am ordering food, they also sell pork and also liquor. And since, okay, I need to order online, so my consciousness make me ask the supply, the producer, one of the supermarket, one of the big supermarket in Malaysia. So I email them and ask them, if I order this food from your supermarket, how you handle, okay, the halal food and non-halal food, okay. So this supermarket say that, okay, we handle by separating the tagging. If for non-halal food, we have different tagging. So with that explanation, so I feel comfortable to order from this supermarket. Okay, so the consciousness, okay, on the logistic. Okay, so this is among, I mean, kind of issues, okay, relating to the halal product. Okay, so this is what I mentioned earlier. So for the demand and supply of the halal food and also halal tourism, halal cosmetics, so it's becoming bigger, like I mentioned earlier. So in terms of the halal food, okay, the demand is increasing, and Indonesia becoming one of the top Muslim food producer, expenditure or consumer, because we know that Indonesia has the biggest population in the world. Okay, and based on the research by Dina Standard, so I think maybe many of you also quite familiar with this statistic, okay, which is showing that the significant demand on the halal food, okay, and it also give big impact to the economy, okay. And for Malaysia, Malaysia being a center for various international brands that adopting halal standard to penetrate global halal market. So, for example, these are the multi-international company whereby when they get halal certification, okay, so when they get halal certification, okay, so they can export their product to other countries. Okay, so for example, Nestle. Okay, so Nestle produce 500 products in Malaysia and 500 products being certified halal from Malaysian Halal Agency, and it being exported to 50 countries all around the world. Okay, and Nestle has making profit.
I'm sorry, doctor.
Okay, so yes.
Sorry, doctor. Sorry to interrupt you. You have another 10 minutes, I guess, to complete your presentation.
Okay.
I'm sorry.
Okay, so, okay, so this is among the example, okay, of company, okay, in Malaysia, which is getting halal certification, okay, and then for another company, okay, so for example, this is secret recipe, and then this is, for example, Munchies. So the owner of this producer is non-Muslim. All are non-Muslim. Okay, but because like I mentioned earlier, they see the potential in the halal market and they get halal certification. Okay, and another than this, okay, so this is what I mentioned earlier about the Nestle, and then for the halal fashion, so there are also increasing in terms of the supply of the halal fashion, and we can see international brand, okay, so for example Nike and also Michael Kors, for example, even though this international brand, but they are producing their fashion which is according to the Muslims need, okay, because they see the potential to enter into this market, okay. And then for pharmaceutical and also for the cosmetic, okay, so the increasing of the demand, then we can see, for example, for halal cosmetic, okay, not only in Malaysia, not only in Indonesia, but in other country, for example in Germany and also in Switzerland, for example, okay, their ingredient to supply for halal cosmetic being certified halal because you can see the potential of getting into the halal market. And for halal financing, for halal industry, so we know that the prohibition of riba in the Quran, okay, based on Surah Al-Baqarah, okay, which is alladzina ya'kuluna riba la yakumuna illa kama yakumu alladhi yatakhabbatu asyaitanu minal mas. Dzalika bi annahum qalu innamal bai'u mithlur riba. Because they said riba and buy is same. But Allah said wa halallahu al-bai'a wa harrama riba. So even though it look like same, but Allah have confirmed that Allah only allow buy or purchase or buying, and Allah prohibit riba. So when we talk about the prohibition of riba, we have to understand also the prohibition of riba is not only for Muslim, but in other civilization, in other religion. For example, in Jewish in Christianity, they also prohibit usury or riba. So for example, you can see even the first council of Nicaea in 325, okay, the gathering of the early Christian in Nicaea in Turkey now, they have issued the declaration of prohibition of riba among them, because this is also based in their book, okay, in Old Testament and also in the New Testament, and there are longer discussion even in the Christianity, and yet in 1950 their church allow and acknowledge the taking of usury or the taking of interest is allowed, okay, in their religion, okay, because this is the original teaching in their religion, okay. So this example of riba in the bank loan. So for the Sharia or for the halal financing, or being known as Islamic financing or Sharia financing, to eliminate the element of riba, the contract of giving financing to the customers should use the Sharia compliant contracts, okay. And we can see that the demand for the Islamic financing is also growing because of the awareness of the Muslim in the world. And if we see, for example, in Malaysia, CIMB Islamic, so CIMB Islamic also in Indonesia, so CIMB Islamic in Malaysia has a specific financing to grow the Islamic, the halal industry in Malaysia, okay. And even, for example, M-Bank Islamic, they also take the initiative, okay, to give awareness to their customers when they want to get financing, okay, for food production, they should get halal financing for their manufacturing, okay. So this is how the Islamic banking in Malaysia contributing to ensure that the halal producers also aware on getting halal financing. And for the Muslims, we as the Muslim, if we are not the halal producers, we can contribute in the developing of the halal industry by investing in halal production, by buying shares in this company. So there are certain company which is certified halal. So for example, Ajinomoto, their product is certified halal, their shares also certified halal, and one of the element to be certified halal for their shares is their financing should not be taken from conventional bank or conventional sources exceeding 30%, okay. So this is how this company being certified halal. Also, for example, Dutch Lady, their product is halal and their shares also being certified halal because they are taking financing from Sharia or halal financing, which is not exceeding 33%. Apollo, one of the company which is produce halal product, this company also being certified halal. Nestle, Milo, I think in Indonesia you are quite familiar, for example, with Milo, Nestle, like I mentioned earlier. So this product also being certified halal, the company also being certified Sharia compliant, and Muslim can invest in these shares because all these shares being listed in Bursa Malaysia. So it's open to anybody to buy their shares. Other than that, in Malaysia also now we have Islamic fintech to finance halal industry. So Islamic fintech becoming growing, and I think in Indonesia also. So for Islamic fintech in Malaysia, this company Microlip, which is certified offering Islamic fintech by Securities Commission, and it also offers Islamic financing for customer who want to get microfinancing. So this is example. Okay. So with that, and thank you very much. So I transfer back this screen to Pak Dr. Gunawan. Thank you very much.
thank you very much. Thank you very much, Doctor. This is very a comprehensive presentation, and then it is also fascinating topic to be discussed. And then we already have few questions here, Doctor. First, would you like to I read the question one by one and then you respond, or would you like to read all the questions?
Okay, so I can read this question. So
Yeah. Okay, Doctor.
One, I question is how to attack non-Muslim community to attract. Okay, so to attract non-Muslim community to engage in halal financing. Okay, so I think before we attract non-Muslim community, we attract Muslim community first. Because I think this is the most important, customer, or the most important potential customer that we need to educate first. Okay, and for the non-Muslim, I think of course non-Muslim will see this opportunity by looking into from business perspective, okay, rather than religious perspective. For Muslim, of course, we see this from religious perspective and from business perspective. But for non-Muslim, of course, they see this from business perspective. So, for example, when I attend one of the halal conference few years back, okay, so I meet one of the non-Muslim supplier, this non-Muslim supplier who is supply dim sum to the hotel. Okay, so back then I was quite very skeptical for non-Muslim when they enter into the halal market. So my conversation with this non-Muslim supplier, so I said that, okay, so when you get the halal certification, so maybe after this you will not follow all the procedures. Okay, so for this non-Muslim producers, okay, what is the response? So his response is, when I enter into this business, my investment is millions, not 100,000, I mean millions ringgit. So I'm not sure how much is million, how much is in Indonesia, but 100 million ringgit. Okay, so if I invest million ringgit into this business, I want to maintain this business. I want to capture as much as market, because if the food being certified halal, I can capture Muslim and non-Muslim market. So I want to maintain, so I have to follow. So that's why for non-Muslim, they will see this from business perspective. They can capture bigger market, and even they can export to various country. So like Nestle, they can export to various country, Japan, Korea, even though they have minority Muslim, but they take the effort to get halal certification to export to the Muslim country. So for example, I think for youngsters, I think you eat from Korea, what is that? Which is instant noodle from Korea. What's the name? What's the name? I think in Malaysia it's quite famous. Di Indonesia, I think also ada instant noodle atau Pak Gunawan.
Samyang.
Yeah,
Samyang.
Is it Samyang?
I know.
Very hot.
Ramen.
Yeah, ramen. Okay, so for example,
Thank you, Kapita.
Yeah, for example, kimchi, for example. So
Kimchi.
you want to get so if there are the demand, for non-Muslim for this product, so why don't? They take this opportunity, and for me, I am addicted to Korean product. I don't eat ramen, but I eat their banana milk, because their banana milk is quite delicious compared to other producers. So when I see there are halal certification there, so I put my trust in this halal certification, then I can buy. So I think, yeah, so this is how to attract for non-Muslim community. So I think from business point of view, we can convince them. Okay.
Yeah.
And then if the industry doesn't have a halal logo, but the industry doesn't do haram or non-halal thing, can the industry be considered halal? Okay, so like I mentioned earlier, if the product being produced by Muslims, we have the trust that this product is halal because we believe in our Muslim producers. Okay, and even for example for small producers, small restaurant, maybe they think it's very difficult to get halal certification, but if they want to get more market, they want to go international market, of course having halal certification logo which is something that is good for them. Okay, but if for non-Muslim, if they don't have halal logo, I think we must put consciousness. Okay, because are we sure that they are using the chicken which is being slaughtered? So I have experience. Okay, near my house there was new restaurant being opened, and they have this the banner, okay, to attract many customers. So their banner is Muslim friendly restaurant. So at that time we are looking at this signboard, Muslim friendly restaurant. We are serving Muslim friendly restaurant. So we go to that restaurant, we order food, and then when we want to eat, we then realize, because we look at the restaurant full of Muslim. Okay, because the banner is Muslim friendly restaurant. So when we want to order, then we see that the person in the kitchen, ladies with tudung, so we know, okay, this is Muslim. But when we go to another section, the Chinese who is serving, so then we have a doubt. This chicken being slaughtered, so then we ask, but we have some doubt. Okay, so if we still have another alternative, so it's better. And I think Pak Dr. Gunawan, will you still remember our experience when we go to Australia?
Yes, betul.
So we go to Australia together, Pak Gunawan and also another Dr. Gunawan's friend, Ibu Hafizah. So we still remember when we go and order from one restaurant, the owner is Indonesian, right, Pak Gunawan?
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, so we eat from this restaurant. So at first we so hungry, so we eat everything, and then finally after eating, we realized that the bowl, the spoon, and everything being shared with another restaurant behind near.
Yeah, it's a food.
This restaurant.
Yeah, it was a food court, Doctor.
Yeah, and this restaurant, one of their menu is pork. So then we said, okay, we have to be conscious. Okay, so that's that's we know that we have to be conscious on this. Okay, and then the next question. Assalamualaikum, Angelina. I have a question. Why can an industry be rejected when they have to apply for halal certification?
Probably a short answer, Doctor.
Okay.
Yes.
Why can an industry be rejected? Okay, why? Being rejected. Okay, so being rejected, do not using haram or non-halal. Okay, so usually being rejected because of the element of prohibited, okay, or maybe because of the when they fill up the form, okay, they are not following all the procedure accordingly, okay. And then Malaysia, every product have the term to keep the halal certification 2 years. So what is the term? Person want to apply the halal for their product again, they need to follow the product from the beginning, or they just end or the halal certification, because they have to explain everything, and of course the procedure, they have to follow the procedure, okay. And sometimes they have to check, I mean the halal certification body come and do the checking, okay. And if they have internal halal personnel, this internal halal personnel will also report, okay, in their annual report. So I read one of the food producer, when they report in their annual report, in certain period their food production does not comply with, or there are the breach of the halal procedure, and they have to cannot, okay, market that product when being produced. Okay. So I think that's all the questions. No more questions.
Okay, Doctor. Me myself actually have a question, but I think with the time constraints, it is very interesting topic to be discussed, and halal industry actually it's very comprehensive industry, contains with a lot of aspect in the market. Start from the raw material, the process, even the financing. It is quite a big issue in our country, Doctor. We have restaurants with logo halal, but they still borrow money from conventional bank. That's one issue that it's hotly discussed recently. Right. Thank you very much, Doctor. This is very joyful discussion, fruitful, interesting topic. I hope another day we have further discussion about this topic. And lastly, on behalf of the Deanery of Faculty of Economy and Business, we give you a huge appreciation for your allocation time and to be our guest lecture today. Thank you very much, Doctor. We wish you a bless from Allah and a good health indeed, inshallah. And then before we close our event, Mbak Sinta, please help me with to take pictures with Doctor and all the participants.
Okay.